Welcome top news today.
As Bethlehem and other cities in the Holy Land lit the Christmas tree ahead of the Christmas season, President Donald Trump decided to break the traditional position of the previous American administrations. In defiance of the international community, he unilaterally declared Jerusalem as the capital of the State of Israel. This resulted in a global wave of shock in Palestine. The leadership received the decision as an ultimate slap to all the genuine efforts for a durable and comprehensive peace based on international law and international resolutions, at top of which are Resolutions 242, 338 and 2334. President Trump's decision on Jerusalem, on the eve of the Christmas season, was carried out as if it was deliberately aiming at extinguishing Bethlehem's Christmas lights, and to ensure that the children of Palestine wouldn't enjoy the Christmas spirit. U.S. Vice President Mike Pence stands by as U.S. President Donald Trump signs a proclamation recognizing Jerusalem as the capital of Israel during an address from the White House in Washington on Check Evan Lamarck. Mr. Trump, as a father and grandfather, you should have thought for a moment about the dramatic consequences of such a move. You spoiled the joy of Christmas in the Holy Land when you portrayed the holy city of Jerusalem with only one color. Where the three monotheistic religions could live in mutual respect and peace, you adopted exclusivity instead of inclusivity, Mr. President. With this decision, you are destroying the mosaic of this city's beauty, removing its indigenous Christian stones that have stood there to protect the holy shrine since the early days of Christianity. We've got more newsletters we think you'll find interesting. Click here. Please try again later. The coming days and years will stand witness to your decision, but clearly, rather than making Jerusalem the warm sun of the Middle East, you opted to recognize it through your ill-advised decision as the capital of Israel, a black hole that will swallow the achievements of the Middle East peace process. When you were elected, some of us hoped that this year would be a different one. Alas, the prevailing winds from the White House have swept the process in an opposite direction, poisoning the joy of Christmas. Pope Francis touches the wall dividing Israel from the West Bank, on his way to celebrate a Mass in Manger Square next to the Church of the Nativity in the West Bank city of Bethlehem. May 25, 2014. Reuters. Mr. President, the children of Palestine deserve to celebrate Christmas and enjoy the spirit of the message of our Lord, and seek freedom and dignity. The ultimate deal was supposed to end the Israeli occupation in the occupied territory of Palestine, restore freedom and dignity to the Palestinian people, and spare Israel from its evil military occupation and the subjugation of others. We believed a two-state solution on the 1967 borders was the ultimate goal of your mediation. The other day, I took my children to see their grandfather's home in Kadamon, a Jerusalem neighborhood. My then 8-year-old father, along with his parents, were obliged to leave their home and run for their lives during the 1948 war. The Kadamon area was inhabited mainly by Palestinian Christians, and now it is considered part of West Jerusalem. I made the point to my children that the Kadamon area remains part of our Palestinian roots and identity, yet we have to look into the future, and make East Jerusalem as the place for our future capital, as Jerusalem should be open and shared by all three monotheistic religions. A protester carrying a Palestinian flag runs for cover during clashes with Israeli troops following protests against Trump's recognition of Jerusalem as Israel's capital. Bethlehem, Dec. 10, 2017, AP photo. Nasser. Mr. President, your declaration on Jerusalem distances us from peace. It is a hard blow to the moderate voices in the region. It also fueled bitter feelings amongst our young people on the eve of the Christmas season. Bethlehem, the birthplace of our Lord Jesus, rightly expected a message of peace and tranquility from you. Rather, you opted to side with the oppressor, and sabotaged this year's Christmas. The Holy Land and its living stones deserve better treatment from you, an approach based on justice, freedom and dignity. By celebrating the birth of Jesus Christ, we keep joy and hope in the hearts and minds of our children. We are adamant that the power of logic will defeat the logic of power, and as a nation, we will be resurrected again in the footsteps of Jesus Christ. God bless us all. Issa Kassishie is the ambassador of Palestine to the Holy See. Page 2. Israel has no better ally than Saudi Arabia. It fights Hezbollah and overthrew the Lebanese prime minister who had lived in peace with that organization for a year. There is no other country in the world, including the United States, that acts with such resolve against Iran. Saudi Arabia even went to war in Yemen, not for the Yemenis, who as far as Riyadh is concerned could die of starvation, but to block Iran's influence. To really understand the Middle East, subscribe to Haaretz. Saudi Arabia has warned Hamas against renewing its ties with Tehran and is pressing Washington to come out of its coma and act against the Iranian threat. It seems as if Saudi Arabia would be happy to have Israel join the Sunni axis. Good for Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman, who dared to get rid of several ministers in his battle against corruption and isn't afraid to confront the Saudi religious oligarchy. Saudi Arabia is the dream of the Jewish state. Its behavior toward Iran makes mincemeat out of the axiom behind Israel's security strategy, namely that all Arab states seek to destroy it, but in return Saudi Arabia reinforces Iran's status as the ultimate enemy. Israel has secret contacts with Saudi Arabia, senior minister reveals. We've got more newsletters we think you'll find interesting. Click here. Please try again later. One might expect that such an alliance with an Arab power that sees eye to eye with Israel regarding its greatest enemy would demand some serious consideration of Saudi interests in the Israelo-Palestinian arena, for example, to revive the Saudi peace initiative, which calls for Arab normalization with Israel in return for withdrawing from the territories. No harm would be done if Israel made a gesture toward the kingdom and offered to begin negotiating with the Palestinians on the basis of that initiative, and even invite Riyadh to mediate. It wouldn't be unreasonable to try to form an Arab coalition made up of Egypt, Jordan, the United Arab Emirates and Saudi Arabia for this purpose. After all, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu never fails to boast of the quality of the relations that he has managed to develop with Arab countries, even those that have no peace treaty with Israel. The alliance with Egypt is working well along the southern border, and there is quiet and excellent cooperation with Jordan, while the UAE has recently become a silent partner. On the face of it, there could be no better combination of forces for the state of Israel. The problem is that even an alliance of interests with Saudi Arabia has a fatal flaw. It requires that Israel pay too heavy a political price. Israel believes it is permitted to cooperate with Arab states against common enemies, but not in return for a chance at real peace. The enormous security and economic benefits that would derive from a diplomatic process that has the participation of anti-Iranian Arab states is apparently worthless in Israeli eyes. It prefers to pay the economic and security costs of taking care of 500,000 settlers, not to mention the collapse of Israeli democracy. An alliance with Saudi Arabia or other Arab states? Only if it's free. And thus, while Israel cheers when a ballistic missile is fired from Yemen on the Saudi capital, and celebrates the resignation removal of Lebanese Prime Minister Saad Hariri, because it sees both as incentives for intensifying the struggle against Iran, it prickles like a porcupine when anyone mentions the Saudi peace initiative. Israel is assuming that the common enemy will make the kingdom and other Arab countries forget that abomination called the peace process. In the 7 years that have passed since the Arab Spring and the 3 years since the Islamic State seized control of lands in Syria and Iraq, Middle Eastern alliances and coalitions have been shifting like the colors in a kaleidoscope. Those who know how to exploit opportunities, like Russia, Iran and Turkey, will gain diplomatic capital. Such an opportunity now lies before Israel. But Israel has learned the Palestinian lesson well. It never misses an opportunity to miss an opportunity.